we shall see the role of electronics in automotive system. So let me quickly walk you through the list of topics that will be covered in this webinar. Then we will try to understand the application areas where electronics can enhance the driving experience of a car. As we are going to learn about electronics in car, it is important for us to understand the type of messages that we have to process. For this, we will quickly take a look at typical messages from ECU. One of the important applications of electronics in car is safety systems. The next topic in our webinar will be safety systems. There are two types of safety systems, passive and active. We will see this in detail in the upcoming slides. Under passive safety system, we will check airbags and how it helps in saving life when accidents happen. Under active safety system, we will check anti-lock braking system, traction control system, and electronic stability program. Out of these topics, we will see anti-lock braking system in detail. After covering these topics, we will quickly check infotainment and navigation system, instrument clusters, body control module, and in-vehicle communication system. We will end this webinar by looking at the possible career path, job opportunities, and skill sets required to establish a career in this industry. I request all of you to kindly share your questions to the coordinator. The last 15 minutes of today's webinar is devoted exclusively for questions and answers. So friends, without any further ado, let's dive deep into our webinar with the first slide, evolution of electronics in car. Before I get into this graph and explain what it means, I'm sure every participant is curious to know why should we even bother to learn about automotive electronics? Why automotive electronics is a topic of discussion today. So electronics in car, as you know, is increasing year by year. Gone are the days when automobiles were seen as mechanical machines. The drawbacks of mechanical systems, like limited accuracy caused by undetected failures, posed life threats to consumers. Soon, safety of consumers was seen as the need of the hour. As the popular saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention, and this led to electrification of cars. I hope it is clear why there is a need to learn about automotive electronics. So with that, let's move on to this graph. So as you can see, in the x-axis, you have the years starting from 1976 till 2020, and of course, it is also projected till 2030. In the y-axis, you can see the cost of electronics in terms of percentage of total cost of the car. Okay, and as you can see in this slide, the cost of electronics as a percentage of total cost of car worldwide from 1970 to 2030 is gradually but steadily increasing. By 2030, it is predicted that 50% of the total cost of automobile will be due to electronics in it. Okay, so now let's move to the next slide. Let us quickly take a look at the list of application areas where electronics can be applied. The first one is body electronics, which includes automotive lighting, car access and security systems, mirrors, body motors, power seats, and body sensors like obstacle detection sensor and vehicle occupant detection sensor. All this comes under body electronics. Before we proceed further, I want to share one more point. In the slides, you'll see only few points. I'll be explaining each point when I'm taking the session. You'll not find every word in the slide, okay? Just the hints in the slide. So we'll move on. The other application areas of electronics include driver information system, powertrain vehicle dynamics, vehicle network systems or in-vehicle communication system, sensors and actuators in car, infotainment system, navigation and connection system, connectivity system. Okay, so here the next slide is a fun fact. This is a very important fact. In 1968, Volkswagen introduced the first consumer vehicle available with a computer. It was a transistorized, electronically controlled fuel injection system. The first production of automotive microcomputer (ECU) was a single function controller used for electronic spark timing in the 1977 for General Motors Oldsmobile Tornado. For those of you who's thinking what is Oldsmobile Tornado, it is a personal luxury car manufactured and marketed by Oldsmobile division of General Motors from 1966 to 1992. over 4 generations. In 1978, General Motors offered as an option its Cadillac Trip computer on the Cadillac Seville. For those of you who don't know what is Cadillac Seville, it's also a car which was introduced in 1975 by General Motors. The computer, a modified Motorola 6802 microprocessor chip, displayed speed, fuel, trip, and engine information. So that's about this slide. So we'll move on to the next slide where we try to understand the typical messages that are given to ECU from various sensors in car. ECU stands for Electronic Control Unit. The typical messages that is processed by ECU includes engine torque, accelerator position, engine speed, throttle position, engine request, engine status, vehicle speed, and odometer, air conditioning, and finally OBD data. OBD data stands for onboard diagnostics data. Before moving on to the next slide, I want to share what are the different types of sensors, a brief overview about different types of sensors in car. So a modern day car includes following sensors: mass airflow sensor, engine speed sensor, oxygen sensor, spark knob sensor, coolant sensor, manifold absolute pressure sensor, fuel temperature sensor, voltage sensor, camshaft position sensor, throttle position sensor, and vehicle speed sensor. I'll just explain 2 or 3 of these sensors so that you get a feel of why we need sensors in car. So starting with mass airflow sensor, it is used to measure the air density to calculate the amount of fuel that is required to burn. Next is spark NOx sensor, which is used to ensure fuel is burned smoothly. Manifold absolute pressure sensor, which monitors the load of an engine. So that's about sensors. And as we are going to talk about automotive electronics, we can't skip embedded system. And for you to integrate all these sensors to a controller, your ECU electronic control unit is nothing but a microcontroller inside. So you have to know there are 3 types of output that you can expect from any sensor. One is analog output, the second is digital output, and the third possibility is PWM or pulse width modulation output. So let's briefly see what each of this mean. Analog signal means it is a continuously varying value, and digital signal or digital output is a signal that is being used to represent data as a sequence of discrete value. PWM is a series of square waves. In other words, I would say PWM is a way of digitally encoding analog signal values. Now let us look at the next topic, which is one of the most important topics we will cover today, that is safety systems. As already shared with you all, safety systems in a car consist of passive safety system and active safety system. Now let us look at these one by one. Before I dive into the topic, I want you to imagine as we are driving your car, and let's say for some reasons the car meets with an accident. So the point when your car meets with an accident and the point the passengers inside the car are saved, that period is crucial, and that action is taken by a system called passive safety system. Okay, so we have already seen that there are 2 types of system. One is passive and the other is active. So moving on to passive safety system. So as I said, the point where your car has met with an accident, from that point, passive safety system will take control and it will ensure the life of the passengers are saved. So let us see passive safety system in details now. Passive safety system comes into picture post-impact. That is, it plays a role only after the accident has taken place, which means these systems play after the accident has happened. For example, seat belt and airbag systems. The primary purpose of passive safety system is to save life in case of an accident. It is worth to mention these systems play no role in avoiding the accidents. Hence, these systems do not help avoid accidents. Now, this point will be clear when we look at the active safety system. Now, the next topic, before I move, I want you to imagine again that you're driving your car. So, we have already seen there are many sensors in the car, and when you're driving the car, each of the sensor will monitor the driving conditions and it will constantly give input to your electronic control unit. So this entire sensor and ECU will constantly look for circumstances or behavior pattern that will predict accident. And when such an accident is, such a behavior is predicted, active safety system will come into picture and it will completely avoid the possibility of accident itself in the first place. Okay, so let us see the active safety systems in detail. We are going to see what are active safety systems and how are they different from passive safety systems. Active safety systems comes into picture in pre-impact, that is, these systems play a role before accidents happen. Examples include anti-lock braking system, electronic stability control system, lane departure warning system. Okay, these are examples of active safety systems. The primary role of these systems is to prevent accidents. It is interesting to note in case of failure of one of these systems, it does not play any role in saving the life of a passenger. That is the role of passive safety system. Now this point is very important to understand how active safety system is different from passive safety system. So before we dive into the details and take up the example, I want to once again mention that when you're driving a car and we have sensors that is constantly monitoring the driving pattern, so when this pattern is monitored and the accident behavior is observed, active safety system will take control and try its best to avoid accidents. That's where anti-lock braking system, electronic stability system, and traction control system comes into picture. Now, imagine active safety system fails and the car meets with an accident. After that point, passive safety system comes into picture and it ensures, in spite of accident, the life of passengers are saved. So we're going to see these one by one. So starting with airbag control system. Before I get into airbags, okay, I want you to know that airbags can be dangerous, okay, and we'll get to this point at the end of the webinar. So airbag control systems, what are they? It is a passive restraint system which determines crashes and deploys airbags, thus preventing the loss of human life in crash situations. An electronic control unit processes a signal from an accelerator sensor, and based on an algorithm, it deploys airbags. The role of airbag is to prevent injuries to vital parts of human body. What are the vital parts of human body? Its head, chest, and face. Now there are some prerequisites to effectively use airbags in preventing injuries. That includes passenger is in seating position, passenger is wearing seat belt, not too many passengers in a car, and no child sits in front facing the rear. Now we have to understand why these prerequisites are there and how each of this plays a role. So starting with the first point, which is passenger in seating position. As you might know, airbags are positioned in fixed points in car. So you have this front airbag that is positioned inside your steering wheel, and there are curtain airbags on the side, and you also have some luxury cars which provides carpet airbags. That is to protect your feet. And then there are some airbags for protecting knees. It's called knee airbags. So when an accident happens, it's very important that we follow corrective seating positions. Only when we follow corrective seating positions, the vital human parts will be targeted by the airbag and it will be able to effectively save the vital target parts of human body. That's why the correct seating position is important. The next point is wearing seat belt. There are two important factors why this is important. Let's look at the first one. First is imagine you're not in the corrective seating position. Instead of purchasing a car with airbags, you will not enjoy the benefit of having airbag because it is not effectively protecting you from an accident. So this seat belt, when you are plugged into seat belt, you are 80 to 90% in correct seating position. So the seat belt helps you to automatically sit in correct seating position. So that is one advantage and why it is a prerequisite. Secondly, imagine you have a car with airbags installed, but you have parked your car and gone to have food in restaurant, and unfortunately a rogue driver comes in and he has hit your car when the car is parked. Okay, so here I want to mention that airbags are one time use. So when you have an airbag deployed in your car, you cannot reuse the same airbag. So when your car is parked and somebody hits your car and nobody is inside the car, there is no need to deploy airbag. Okay, and how is the algorithm checking this? It'll see if the seat belts are plugged in. because a car that is parked will not have a seatbelt plug-in because there are no passengers that will need to use the seatbelt. And that's why wearing the seatbelt is important. Now the next point is not too many passengers in the car. Now this is again important, okay? When you have a lot of people sitting in a car and airbags will be deployed with a lot of force and pressure in a fraction of a second. So when you have many people sitting inside a car, you can collide with each other and that itself can lead to injuries. And that's the only simple reason why it is not encouraged to have too many people in car. The last point is no child sits in front facing rear. Now, you must understand airbags are designed for adults. When you have child sitting in the front, the position of airbag will not be effective in saving the life of child. And another important point to notice is airbags will be deployed in a fraction of a second with a lot of force. So the force can hit the child and leave bruises, or it can even lead to suffocation. And due to these reasons, child can experience severe damage. And for these reasons, these prerequisites are important and it must be taken care. So we move on to the next slide. As the purpose of airbag is to prevent the passenger body from hitting the car, not one airbag is enough. Let us now look at different types of airbags in a car. As you can see in this slide, different types of airbag includes front airbag, curtain airbags, knee airbags, and inflatable carpets. Let us discuss airbags in some more detail. There are three parts to an airbag system that helps to accomplish passenger protection. These include the airbag itself, crash sensor, and the inflator. The airbag is made of a thin nylon fabric which is folded into the steering wheel. The crash sensor is a device that tells the bag to inflate. And finally, a rapid pulse of nitrogen gas is used to inflate the airbag. So let us look at how does this airbag work. The working principle of airbag. When the crash sensor detects the accident, the airbag systems ignite a solid propellant which burns extremely rapidly to create a large volume of gas to inflate the bag. Nitrogen gas used to inflate the bag is obtained from chemical reaction of sodium oxide and potassium nitrate. So these two gases react with each other when an accident happens, and that leads to the outcome of an airbag. So with this slide, we complete the passive safety system. So before moving on to active safety system, I want to give some more fun facts. Okay, these are important facts to keep in mind. So the first one is in 1978, Bosch introduced the world's first anti-lock braking system. In 1986, Bosch introduced world's first traction control system, and in 1995, Bosch introduced the world's first electronic stability program. Now, in this webinar, we are going to see each of this in detail with special focus on anti-lock braking system. Now, before I dive into these topics, I want you again to imagine something. That is, you imagine that you're driving a car after heavy monsoon rain, and due to wet and slippery road, there are chances that your car can spin out of control. That is, there are chances you might lose control of your car and meet with an accident. To avoid this situation, anti-lock braking systems are introduced. Our next topic of discussion is anti-lock braking system, or ABS as it is famously known. Let us start examining the purpose of ABS. There are two main objectives of ABS systems: maintain steerability of the vehicle and maintaining the vehicle stability during braking. I would like to take you guys to your childhood to help you understand anti-lock braking system. Let's see how we can understand anti-lock braking system by our childhood experience. I am sure all the participants would have driven bicycle in their childhood. I hope you would have also noticed a pair of brake pad that grips the wheel whenever you press the brakes. Basically, you're using brake pad friction to stop your bicycle. Now imagine you are driving fast and suddenly you have to press the brake hard. What do you think will happen? You will notice that your wheels will stop moving, but due to the momentum your bicycle has gained, it will continue to move forward before it comes to a halt. And imagine you have a car or some other obstacle in front of you, you can hit the obstacle. Though you have pressed the brake, accident will happen. Now let us revisit this situation with slight difference. Okay, so let's assume you're driving your bicycle You're driving it fast and you have seen an obstacle in front of you. And instead of pressing your brake hard, what you do is you press your brake for some time and then you release the brake and then you press your brake again and then you release again. So by doing this, you are reducing the speed of your cycle and at the same time you're ensuring you have control over the cycle, and in case you want to move, you can move. Such braking principle is called cadence braking principle. And this cadence braking principle is the foundation of anti-lock braking system. So let's look how this will work with a car. Imagine if you applied hard brake on a wet road, you might not be able to steer the vehicle as the wheels might get locked. The car might continue in a straight line, however much you turn the steering vehicle if your wheels are locked. In such a situation, the driving technique to follow, the best driving technique to follow is to pump the brake while you also steer simultaneously. This technique is called cadence braking. These days, complex ABS system does this technique for you.